Roger Hurst in high-flying form at Bluff. But leading the race is Roger Hurst for Kawasaki, back in force on the island this year.
We've got Pat Bryant, mother of Mr. Roger Hurst. Now then, let's turn the clock back and go all the way to when he was a little baby. When was that?
1960.
And where did Roger grow up?
In Ruislip Manor in Middlesex. And then we went, his dad wanted to get back to farming, so we went into farming. We went to Leicestershire, we went to Oxfordshire, and we went to Buckinghamshire farming. It was lovely.
And how big was the family?
Our family, Roger has a sister and 2 brothers, younger than him.
Okay. So as a child, Roger, what was he like? How could you describe him?
He was fine. We lived on a farm. He used to get up to mischief, obviously, like all boys do, but it was fine, yeah.
And how was life then? Was it easy? Was it hard?
Didn't have much money, but it was fine. It was another time, not like now.
So this is in the 1960s when...
60s, 70s.
So...
Flower power.
And World War II was only over the shoulder, wasn't it? So it wasn't far beyond rationing and lifestyles and diets and things they did were different.
Different world. Different world. A nice world.
And outdoor activities, was Roger a bit outdoorsy?
Well, because we were on the farm, obviously the kids just used to have freedom to go on the farm, do whatever, get up to mischief, yeah.
And in the family, the dynamics, how did Roger fit in the pecking order?
Well, he was the oldest. He used to get into scrapes at times. He was very fond of his youngest brother, Steve, and still is.
So life on the farm, we've got Roger with his sister and 2 brothers. What was going on? You know, what sort of things were they getting up to?
Not a lot. We didn't have mobile phones and all stuff like that, so they were probably just out on the farm, going around. Freedom, which is nice, yeah. Went to school.
And at that time, there weren't any motorbikes on the scene, were there?
No motorbikes.
And what about a bicycle? Would Roger be running around on one of those?
I don't know, did he have a bike? I suppose he did. Not sure. Because we lived in villages, and then once they were at school, when we lived in the village, they could just walk to school. Yeah.
So, okay, we've got Roger going through school. Schoolwork, homework, academics, was he?
Oh, no, he wasn't academic, no.
And where did he see his career forming? What was he thinking about?
Well, it went wrong, I guess, when his father and I split up, and I stayed in Buckinghamshire, and he came to the Isle of Man.
Okay, so that's quite a distance. It's a drive up the country and across on the ferry. And what was your thoughts about that?
I did come a few times to the Isle of Man, but not a lot, obviously, because I was working anyway. Don't know quite how to answer this one. Roger came to the Isle of Man. He left school, and then he went to work. First of all, he went to work at the co-op in Ramsey. Then he ran away, came across, managed to find me where I was living, and then he went and stayed. He couldn't live with me because I was living in a flat. He went and stayed with some friends of ours for a while, got a job, went to Airpel Motors, and then he came back to the Isle of Man, where he met Dennis Brew, who was an ex-racer. Dennis Brew had Air Motors in Ramsey. Both his sons raced, and Dennis had raced himself in Australia, and I must include this because he won a gold bullion bar, which I think is pretty good. I've not known anybody who's won a gold bullion bar for winning a race.
Fair play for Dennis, but, you know, Roger developed a bit of an interest in motorcycles, didn't he, when he was with you?
Probably when he was with Dennis, because of his two sons were racing, and you'd got Derby, road racing, you'd got Derby Airfield, you'd got the Manx, you'd got the TT. But
there's no racing in the family background, is there? No. I mean, Roger's first encounter with a motorbike would have been...
he did have a moped, which he used in Buckinghamshire, and he used to take off from the station, go down the high road, down to Church Path and back again, and he liked speed, and he used to beat on his moped 250cc motorcycle.
So there's a bit of a racing scene.
A racing scene.
In the town, and this is, what was it, High Wycombe, he said?
No, this is Great Missenden.
Great Missenden, okay.
In Buckinghamshire.
In Buckingham. Oh, what Great Missenden, that sounds quite posh, you know, like it's a nice...
It is quite posh. It is
quite
a nice area.
So Roger tearing around on a moped is he's going to get the attention drawn to him, isn't he?
I don't know whether they ever got told off, all these lads, because they were just lads, a group of lads. He'd gone to school with them. Just a group of lads getting into bother.
And this would be, what, in the 1970s, wouldn't it?
Yes.
So motorcycle gangs and what have you, quadrophenia, scooters, mopeds, was it that, or was it a little bit more rustic?
I think it was just, they went to school together, they grew up, Roger got a moped, something got motorbikes, and they just liked a bit of speed.
And was it obvious that Roger was a little bit kind of talented at that, or?
Well, he must have been talented to beat 250s.
So there was obviously something there. So really, you need balance, coordination, you need nerve. Where do these attributes come from?
Don't know. I've no idea, because his dad didn't particularly do any sports. I wasn't sporty. I used to like tennis, but other than that, nothing much else. But I do like speed.
You do like speed, all right. So maybe there's something.
And his dad quite likes speed.
Okay. So the first time you got to hear about Roger and racing motorbikes, how did you find that out?
That was in 1978 when he was with Dennis, and he started racing. Yeah.
And this would be either from a visit to the Isle of Man, or would it be something you'd speak about on the phone? And
Roger started racing, obviously in the Isle of Man first, but then he went across to all the various races, Brands Hatch, all sorts of things, and then I followed him. That was when I got involved with it. I couldn't follow him in the Isle of Man because I lived in Buckinghamshire, but I followed him and went to most of the race meetings.
Now then, this for me is the mystery, okay, about all this. Roger, who's riding around on a moped around Great Missenden, then he goes to the Isle of Man, and then somehow he ends up on Brands Hatch. And I don't get it. What happened? What was the pathway to that?
Roger would have been doing club racing here on the Isle of Man. And then Dennis he knew all the bits and bobs to do because his sons were racing. Both of them were in the RAF and they were both racing across. And I guess Roger just started. I don't even know how Roger got a bike. Where did the first bike come from? It was an Air Mackie. It would have been through Dennis. An Air Mackie.
So we've got this chain of events, and then suddenly you're getting drawn into motorcycle news, and you go and see him. Can you remember the first time you went to watch him?
The first time I really watched him would have been, I don't know whether it was Derby in 1979, because Roger did road racing and circuit racing. He did both. He loved both. So,
So let's have a think about that. You will have seen him that first day, that first event. What was the feeling like inside?
excitement.
And not so much fear, shall we say?
No.
So you're confident about the setup and Roger and how he
I was always glad
himself,
when the
yeah?
race was over and everybody had come through safely. But no, I didn't. I loved it. I just loved it. Used to try and go to as many meetings as we could with my little van. Yeah. Never got to Knock Hill, but went everywhere else. Didn't get, obviously, to Macau, all these wonderful places, Le Mans and all the rest of it that Roger had done over the years. Didn't get to any of those, but in the UK, I could go. And I was here at the ATA TT.
So we've seen him rise up the ranks quickly, I guess. Did it take you by surprise?
No, because from Dennis, he went to, I've got to think what the name is now. He had a year in 86 with Colston Racing. And Tony, can't think what his name is.
It's okay.
Had that year, he did well, and that was when Kawasaki saw him, because Roger didn't give up. He didn't give up. He just wanted to do the best he could.
So you must have done some miles. You said you had the van going up and down the motorway.
Oh yeah. Pete and I used to go to the meetings. Yeah.
And I bet that was really exciting because you got Roger, but anyone that's been to a motorcycle meeting will see all the energy and all the numbers, all the noise, all the people. It's great fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. And of course his mates, the other racers in the paddock. Yeah.
And the TT, of course, the Isle of Man being his home. Did you ever see him around the Great Mountain Circuit?
I did see him. I didn't always like the TT because it's not like a short circuit. It's 37 miles round there. So if something happens, you don't always know until much later on. Yeah. But I still enjoyed it. Yeah.
And would that have been on your mind, though? The danger side of it, or did you just manage to block it out?
I don't know how it works, because when Roger stopped racing, I was 70 when Roger stopped racing, and I'd retired. I was still busy, but I'd retired from ordinary work, and until that point, I didn't realise that once he'd stopped racing, my mind could be clear, because unknown to you, when somebody is doing something dangerous, you don't realise it at the time, but it's in your head. Once he stopped racing, I became more at ease with myself, because I didn't have to worry anymore. Although I didn't know I was worrying at the time, if that makes sense.
But that's a good state of mind to be, isn't it? That you've been thinking
'Cause,
about
it
the
is
success and the results and the excitement rather than the things that could go wrong. But surely there will have been times where you've seen the reports in the newspapers where there's been riders who've not made it, and you must have been able to.
Riders have made it at Roger's meetings that we've been to. Yeah. But you can't, if you race, I would imagine anybody in any sport, you can't have on your mind that you might crash. You have on your mind that you're going to win or do your damnedest.
And of course, having a mother with a son racing around the track, it's a different dynamic than if you'd just gone and watched a race meeting and Roger wasn't there.
In it, yeah.
You have got
totally different.
You have got that.
Yeah.
So we know that Roger had a few spills, but there was a big one, wasn't there?
The big one, I was there. I was there. I wasn't watching on the S's where the accident happened, but I knew it had happened, and because you can't get back to the paddock there, and had to wait. The race wasn't red flagged. Roger was very lucky that there was a doctor where he crashed on the S's who came to the TT and was experienced in what he needed to do when riders had crashed, because I think he made the difference between Roger being here today.
And just remind us where that circuit was.
Thruxton.
It's Thruxton, okay. And that is, what year was that, shall we say?
That was 1988.
1988. So you were there, you were aware that an incident happened on the course and
I knew
Roger's
it had
number didn't
happened.
come round.
And I have to tell you that what you say, I'm not a religious person, but I was with a friend and I knew he'd crashed and I pleaded to God. I prayed to God that he'd be all right. Not that I'm religious, but I think it's something you just do. It's in your psyche, isn't it?
And your prayers were answered. Your prayers were answered, weren't they?
They were answered, yeah. And he went to Winchester Hospital. Yeah. And he was in a coma. Which was... And it was really awful because his dad was in Cyprus on holiday. It was quite a hard sort of time to get through.
You'd be carrying the burden, really, for...
Yeah, I guess so. But I was allowed. We were allowed to stay at the hospital. We could stay in a cottage, which was good.
And how long did the recovery take?
Roger was transferred. He came round because obviously they let you come round gradually. He came round, and he was there a little while, and then he was transferred to Aylesbury, which is 8 hours away from where I live. And then he was recovering there. And then after a year and a day, you are assessed because he had head injuries. And he was assessed, and that was okay. And then you've got to move forward then to the next season, when he went back to Kawasaki and he went to Donington. And I don't know the timeline of him, but all I do know is at one point that Roger came off, I think he'd hit a curb or something, and he hurt his ankle. And then he got the sack from Kawasaki. I personally think Kawasaki brought him back too quick, but that's my opinion. I don't know whether that's right or not.
Would you say that a big crash, your faculties aren't going to be the same for some time, or if ever?
I'm not sure, because Roger still did racing after that.
Did you notice any differences in Roger, though? Was he a little bit more cautious on the bike, or...?
No. Because I'd seen him after that. I saw him, he'd gone to Brands Hatch after that once, and no. I don't think so. Maybe that real... I don't know what gets you to go fast, to have that extra thing. Doesn't matter, anybody who does speed. Hammy's got it, hasn't he? Hammy, who is my hero. Rossi is my hero. Even Mark Cavendish is my hero. So what gives you that extra, that you've got to go that bit more? I don't know. Roger did carry on racing for a while. He did I think he did a 24-hour race. And then he ended up going around Derby when he was 50, and that was when he gave up, because his dad was ill with cancer and terminal, and he went up to Derby and he crashed, and he just gave up because he knew he couldn't do it anymore because he got too much on his brain racing. He does have a short-term memory. You could tell him something now, and you could ask him in a couple of days' time, and he'd have forgotten it. But he does remember some. He remembers some things, just now and again, short-term memory, and that was it. Because this is your lobe with your short-term memory.
As long as he remembers the birthdays and anniversaries, that's the main thing, really. And Roger's a good man.
Yeah.
Even
yeah.
if he overlooks a few
he's
things.
He's a bit dodgy with names. He might call you Bill Fred, and you know.
I think I've been Jeff for a year,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
no, that's lovely. So when he did finally give up, was there any sort of emotion from yourself where you thought, "Oh, that's right," or was it disappointment?
I was quite glad when he gave up because I didn't think he needed to do it anymore. And I have not watched, but heard all these guys that do the Manx, and they just have to have one more race and then something bad happens. Boxers, they go have one more fight and they get hit, and yeah, it's knowing when to stop.
Knowing when to stop, that's words of wisdom, and I think
when to stop.
I think it's knowing when to stop, and that is now. That's absolutely fantastic account that you've given us there.
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely lovely.
I feel wrong because, oh God, the captain. What was? Oh, who was it? Tony. What was his name?
Stafford Coulson.
Yeah, but who was the guy? Your manager?
Hooky, David.
Yeah, Hooky. It was Hooky, bless him.
David,
yeah.
Hooky.
And Hooky, we're not on this now, are we?
You're all right, keep going.
It's all right.
Hooky and the captain were really good. And Hooky got the best out of Roger. And I sometimes wonder if Roger had stayed with Hooky and not gone to Kawasaki, whether... I don't know how things might have been, because Roger was a good rider. He was a good rider, else they wouldn't have asked him, would they? Kawasaki wouldn't have wanted him. No.
Well, we've got mother and son together. What I want you to do is just try and tell me about some of the most memorable days you had when you were going to some of these race meetings. Does anything particular stand out?
I would say one of my biggest successes, well, not a big, one of my happy days was Brands Hatch in, I think that was 83, 84. It was a wet Brands Hatch, and didn't have any money. It was a 250 Star Track Championship, and all the top guys there, Kenny Irons, Steve Kibbles, Pete Wild, blah blah. It was wet conditions, slippery conditions, and I won the race. I got a garland, a hat, and did a lap of the course as a winner in a Capri. Showed up, and there weren't many people there because it was wet, horrible conditions. So that was my first proper national win. That was nice. And I think I won. I think I got £250 prize money, which is a lot of money in them days, and peanuts now. But no, that was that was a good day. I know my mum was there, and Pete, and who was there? Mechanic. Yeah, I can't remember. A long time ago. I was only 23. So yeah, that was a good day. Beats on the top right.
And Mum, where does that fit in? Or can you think of some days where there was a bit of sunshine and some kind of special memories?
When I look back, I liked 1979 at... I've forgotten what it is. It's gone.
Marlborough?
No, up Oliver's Mount, Scarborough. Scarborough was the first time I saw Roger race with the big boys, Mick Grant and all that lot. And he didn't want to do club racing, so this was really important, this big international meeting. It was really, really good. And he finished 10th. That to me was brilliant. I liked that. Another time I liked was when we used to have Brands Hatch, Donington and Alton Park, transatlantic. And I can remember being at Donington, and there are all these big American races, all sorts, Kevin Schwantz, all sorts. It was really exciting, and Roger did that. It was good.
So
Special things. It was also
world class, if you like.
world class. It was always good going to any meeting. It was great.
And with Roger being in the frame, so to speak, you kind of got an inside the ropes experience, didn't you? Something a little bit more than a normal spectator would get.
I was never spectating outside. I was always in the paddock, along with my checkbook.
And how good was that? How good was that?
It was good. It was good. Really good. Exciting. Nice. Yeah.
And Roger, you know, racing it with the big names, who comes to your mind, you know?
Well, there's loads. I mean, obviously, when I was a youngster, Neil Mackenzie, you come back from World Championship race, Neil Mackenzie, then you do a meeting in April at Brands Hatch, Kevin Schwantz, Wayne Rainey, Bubba Showbort, Jim Felice.
Yeah.
There's so many top names that went on to be world champions, and to actually beat them in qualifying sometimes, and yeah, I was made up, you know.
So
I thought I made
let's
it
just put this into perspective for anyone who rides a motorcycle. What's it like overtaking these guys, or seeing their form, or seeing their line, or looking at, you know, their backup team? You know, how satisfying was it, you know, to really give it to them?
Well, very satisfying. You know, you work hard at all jobs and sports. You work really hard, but to rub shoulder with them same guys and actually, I did it once or twice, not regular, once or twice. To pass them, like Kevin Schwantz or Wayne Rainey in the wet, and they put their arm up because it was too wet for them. And I thought, chickens. And
Roger liked racing in the wet. He could do that.
In the wet was a leveller. Didn't matter what bike you're on, what power you had. You had to ride the bike in all conditions, and getting the power down the wet was hard sometimes. But I loved the wet. I loved it. It was a leveller which I enjoyed. I wouldn't want to do it now though, because the bike's too fast now, too much BHP.
So out of those riders, who's the one who, you know, made you think, who gave you that glow? Who's the one?
When I was a youngster, going back to moped days, I was 16, 17, and I come to the Isle of Man, I had a hero. He was British. His name was Ron Haslam from Nottingham. He's my hero because he had nothing and made it to the Grand Prix level. And I think what helped me there was he's my idol, and he had the same initial as me, RH, Ron Haslam, Roger Hurst. And on my first helmet in 1978, Dennis Bruce Signer, I got RH put on my helmet, and yeah, I was like, I tried to emulate myself on Ron Haslam, and sometimes it paid off, yeah. So
Ron was a good bloke.
Yeah, I looked at people like Ron Haslam and Steve Tonkin, Jeff Sale, Australian that stayed at Dennis's, Takazumi Katayama stayed at Dennis's back in 81 or 2, I can't remember what year it was. So I was very lucky to be guided by these superstars, and I used to look what they were doing and trying to emulate them. I never got to their standard, but I tried my best, and presentation was a key thing. I think presentation, manners, respect, which I've still got now up to a point. Well, I have, yeah. I'm a bit old now, but no, respect and honesty, you know. And
so without Dennis Brew, none of this would have happened.
no chance.
No.
Without
And
Dennis.
without Roger's dad and I divorcing, he wouldn't have come to the Isle of Man.
I'd probably, looking back on it now, like going back to Mizzen days on a moped, I'd have probably got myself a 250 eventually, or a 400 Yamaha LC, RD, sorry, and probably, being realistic, looking back on it now, I'd have probably splat myself. You know, I hate saying that, but I probably would have done, because I was a nutter on the road. Where I come to the Isle of Man, Dennis taught me, respect, manners, and he always said to me, the racetrack was the safest place to be. One-way traffic, no cars, no lorries, no buses, and it's down to you. And yeah, and the other 30 guys on the track with you, respect the manners.
So did Dennis ever reveal why he picked you?
No, he never did really. We never had a row. We had a few, how'd you say it? A few differences. Well, we had quite a few differences at times, but no, Dennis just saw, I think, potential me, and I think 'cause I was very easygoing and didn't have any, not egos. I was just I was a lad willing to learn and listen. And we sat up till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning at his house in Ramsey, the old telephone exchange, and we cups of tea and watching TV and just talk about racing, what he did, and what this. And by which time he'd had people like Alan Jacks, world champion, staying at his house sometimes, Katayama, Mick Grant used to go around there. Even had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Mike Hayward once at the Hilton Hotel. Then had to go meet Mike for something, and we called there about 6:30 at night or 7:15 at night it was. Mike was just going in for dinner. Mr. Hayward was in his dark suit trousers, white shirt, a big Dickie bow on, and I was probably, 3 feet away from Mr. Hayward. And Dennis was talking to him, and he was only there 2 minutes. So I met Mike Hayward once, and very fortunate to see Mike come back in 1978, I think it was, or 78, and beat Phil Reed on the Honda, and Mike was on the Ducati. And I saw that race from Grebe Bridge on the outside of the wall where you could stand and watch them days. No chance now. So I had a good introduction to racing and a very good upbringing, and good people around me, family, brothers, sisters, always helped me out financially.
And Dad.
Yeah,
Don't forget Dad.
Dad. Oh no, not. I said family, Dad as well. And then it was just it was a ball. It's a ball, but I wanted it. I wanted it badly, And as Roy Cass used to say, record breakers, dedication, and that's what I had, dedication. Never went to the pub. I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't get served anyway because I was too baby-faced looking. They wouldn't get served me.
When he was 28,
I was still getting
at
ID'd.
Brands Hatch, they used to ask him for ID to get a beer.
And that was 28 years old. I was raving with Kawasaki's, works Kawasaki at Scarborough.
When you were with Kawasaki, wasn't it? Yeah.
And we went to town, me,
Crazy.
Swan, my teammate. I couldn't get served because Witter Jamie Whitman was there. He said, and I had me lucky to have my licence in my pocket from signing on in the morning, and yeah, but it was embarrassing. But I don't get asked at age. I don't get asked at age now because I'm an old bugger now.
Now, there's certainly something in the genes for both of you, but really, Dennis Brew, without him, just giving you that support and that push, you could have just been anyone in Ramsey. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll never know. Who knows? Never know.
Who knows?
And
Dennis was an amazing man, lovely man.
and I still see the family. Still see Alan. Alan lives in Ramsey. Still see Sal now and again.
Yeah.
I don't see Ronnie because Ronnie's retired. Jane, his daughter, I see Jane passing sometimes, and Andy's. But when I see them, there's never any.
Well, you were sort of part of the family.
Well,
almost.
treat me like family. Yeah, treat me like family. I was in a good place at a good time,
Yeah.
and had a good time.
Well, that from Ramsey to round Europe to Japan to USA.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's
That
not
is
bad.
amazing.
Yeah, not bad. It was good, And then I started my career at Derby 1978, and I returned there of the 93, 94 with Jeff Rome and that, and then called it quits
Derby, didn't
Derby
you?
again, where it all started, in 2010. So, not bad. Finished your career where you started, in one piece, luckily. A few memory issues sometimes, but nothing major. Yeah, no, it was good.
But you're still able to relive the TT dream, aren't you? During the year, sharing your stories and what have you. What do you think about that now?
I love it because it's safe. It's when I was doing TT Grand Prix practices, races, your nervous system is up the creek. Your adrenaline. It's just like unreal. And now when I do laps of TD course with people in the car or whatever, I just love it because I'm relaxed. I can say how when I did it, how it was for me. It's different now because in my heyday I was doing, I say 160 mile an hour top speed, maybe 155, 160 tops if you're lucky. Now they're doing 205 now or more. And I don't miss it. I put it to bed now. I'm an armchair racer now. Watch it on telly, practice your racing with a glass of wine or coffee. That's me now, because they're missiles.
But sharing your expertise and popping up to the motor museum and having a look round there, it's a more sedate way to conduct your days from time to time, isn't it?
It's brilliant. When I got to museum, when I go with the punters, I love it because they're asking me questions. I'm telling what I thought what it was like for me, and we got to up to the museum, and to go in there, and the stuff in there is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've been there 4, 5, 6 times now, and every time I go in there, I see something I've never seen before. I thought, oh, I didn't know that was here. And the history up there is fantastic. Bikes, cars, space machines, tanks, hovercraft, Rolls Royces. It's all there. You never get bored. And when you're up there, you meet different people that the first time there. So it's a jolly. It's a great jolly. And I'm doing a lap of the course as well in a car or a minibus, and a safe ride. Don't go above 40 miles an hour because that's the speed of minibuses.
Well, you're very generous, giving your time for that and sharing your stories and your expertise and welcoming people to the island, because it's important, that we keep that TT heritage going, and people like you have got all those stories up there, and to share, with what you've just said with us about Mike Hailwood, for instance, is just pure gold. It really is.
Well, yeah, like you said, yeah, I never, till you say it like that, Jed, I never really thought that. Mike Hailwood,
Yeah.
Mick Grant, Steve
Yeah.
Izzock, Carl Fogarty, and to be in their company
Yeah.
on the racetrack, not Mr. Hailwood, but the other guys, and sometimes beat them as well. And we go back to when I first started in 78, Mike Hailwood, to see Mr. Hailwood with Dennis Brew, and then, 50 years later, or, about 48, 50, near on 50 years later, still talking about Mr. Hailwood and how great he was, and, fantastic. And it makes me realise I had a great ball of racing, a fantastic time racing. Met world champions, beat them sometimes. I'm still living the dream, feeling in one piece, and I'm very grateful and fortunate for what I've done. Didn't make a fortune, I made a living, but I ticked every box. And I've got to say to you one thing, when I had my first meeting at Derby in 78, Derby, Dennis said to me, "You like Rog?" I loved it, I was 18 then. I said, one day, I would like to win a TT and be a works rider. Well, I didn't quite do that. I come second once, and I was a works rider for Kawasaki, so, I ticked all the boxes.
There'll be millions of motorcycle enthusiasts around the planet who would swap for what you did, and you're a lucky guy to have done that, but you're also very lucky to have such a wonderful mother and a great family who've supported you, and a lot of people who've pushed you, and really that's a testament to you and the character you are. So Roger and Mum, thank you so much for taking time to get in front of the camera and share some great stories. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Jed.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it, Jed. Thank you.
Next to go, number 3 Dunlop and number 4 Dave Dean. But leading the race is Roger Hurst for Kawasaki, back in force on the island this year. Roger Hurst in high-flying form at Ballaugh. By the end of the lap, he'll be 10 seconds clear of Brian Morrison. The Scottish ace, chasing his first TT victory, roars around the bungalow in pursuit of the Kawasaki kid. By Laurel Bank, leader Hurst is ahead of Suzuki's Phil Mellor and Kawasaki teammate Race 1 on the road. Quarry bends, and with the flying Hurst to tow him along, number 14 Swan climbs 3 places up the leaderboard on lap 2. Morrison ups the pace on lap 3 and flies through the bungalow towards Brandywell, only 2 seconds down on Hurst, the leader from the start. Hurst rounds Quarter Bridge at the start of the final lap, just 2 seconds ahead of Morrison. But the Metzler-tired entered Morrison is closing all the time. Will the Kawasaki rider be able to take the pressure through Union Mills? But the battle's really hotting up among the 600s. Hurst monowheels out of Solby Bridge. Morrison's now neck and neck. The mountain section proves crucial as Morrison roars into the lead. Now only the drop from the bungalow to Douglas separates the Scot from his first TT win. And he takes the checkered flag to get the verdict by a mere 3 seconds from Hurst, with Steve Hislop in third.